Okay. So yeah, think about the emotions that these, like, if you see those responses, what's going on? I don't know. I'm interpreting as interest.
Is it a minimal response?
Yes.
Actually achieve something. They are like accepting it.
Yeah, look, the thing is that it's not, when we write this, it's not like a right and wrong, like the grammar quiz that you just did, okay? So what we would do is we would think about, so the patterns that we're seeing. So M and P respond using minimal responses designed to continue the conversation and show interest in J's stand-up comedy routine, which can be seen in lines 5, 9, 5, 11 and 12, and then I might put a couple of quotes in. So even if one of them isn't exactly a minimal response, if the others are and it is like the function is correct, like the reason they're using them is correct, that's okay, if that makes sense. Okay, so here, like, oh, hang on, we'll just keep going. So I don't know, I think you can actually, you could classify this, do tell, it's like keep talking. Like I think it's just it could be analysed as a minimal response, and I wouldn't have any problems if you did that. You know? And this one too, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Created conversation, but that's okay because it was designed for an exam. Okay. Well, I'd been like plucking up courage to ask her for like weeks, and I decided I'd ask her last weekend. But I realised that I hadn't done the right thing and asked her parents. So okay. Notice the minimal responses. What else do you notice? Just in the, like, you know, the discourse particles here, like. Particle, yeah. So we have Paul. Thank you, Peter. Well, her oldies live in Shepparton. That's a 2-hour plus trip, and it was 4 o'clock on Friday. Well, all right, so we're going to stop there for a bit and just have a look at this little bit. What do you notice in terms of language? Anything? Yeah, Sean?
Informal word.
Yeah, which informal word? Oldies. Great.
And even the phrase cutting it a bit fine is probably
Yeah.
alternative.
Great. All right, so oldies, which is Australian slang for old people. Okay. Let's analyse it.
It's almost like an endearing, term.
Let's see if we can use some meta language. What has it got on it? It's old plus what? Yeah? A suffix. Okay, so that could be called a suffixation. Yeah? Which is when we add suffixes to things. Okay? We learnt about suffixes and affixes and prefixes in morphology. Do you know what? I think I skipped over it because I said I taught you this last year in our briefing. Right? Old plus the IES suffix. We could talk about oldies as Australian slang. If it's Australian slang, what does it contribute to? The informal register. Okay. So cutting it a bit fine. What do we have there? Cutting it a bit fine, aren't we? What's that called? The aren't we?
Interrogative tag.
Yeah, that's an interrogative tag. What's happening there with the interrogative tag? Yeah, showing interest. Okay. Engaging in conversation. So we have these discourse strategies with the purpose of keeping conversation going. Okay. Anything else you guys notice? Well, I'd arranged to take her out at 2 the next day. I had these special things planned. Well, I arrived at their house round 6:30 to find no one home.
Oh no! Oh, was loud?
No, that's all right. The next line.
What'd you do?
What could I do? I tried to jump the fence, but nearly got attacked by the dog.
You thought you was scared of a dog.
Have you seen their dog? The size of a Great Dane, and it's not particularly friendly, though you'd think it'd know me by now. Good job. So I waited on the front step till they got home. Lucky for me, they arrived around 7, very surprised to see me, but they invited me in and gave me a drink.
Something strong in those.
You too, Vibev, ha ha ha. It took me like ages to tell them I wanted to marry their daughter, and it was well after 8 before I got back in my car to come back. They were so thrilled, I thought they would ring Kelly and tell her before I could ask her.
That would be so embarrassing.
I got home around 10:30 and I still had lots to do. I'd arranged to take her on a helicopter flight the next day, but I woke up the next morning to like pouring rain and a call from the company to say that they couldn't fly because the weather was bad.
What did you decide to do?
I didn't have a clue, but I planned a beach barbecue later. The weather improved a bit. I had the ring in my pocket and kept on checking it every few minutes. I'm sure she thought I had a wedgie. Well, I left her undercover and stood out in the rain cooking the barbie. I kept checking my pocket to see if the ring was still there. We went for a walk along the beach, and I asked her if she wanted to come back to my flat for coffee. I'd arranged with my flatmates that they would line the hallway with lighted candles, leading to the lounge room where there was a big card on the table that said, "Will you marry me?" Well, the minute I opened the door, the wind blew the candles out. We walked down the hallway in total darkness. When we got to the lounge room, the card had fallen on the floor. I picked it up, fumbled for the ring and asked the question. I even went down on one knee.
How romantic.
Her reply was, "You're joking, aren't you?" But she said yes, and now we're engaged.
That's so sweet.
Keep going.
Oh, there's more.
Yeah.
My boyfriend wouldn't know what that means to be romantic. Perhaps you could give him a few lessons?
Don't say that.
Keep going.
Our resident comedian will get an even bigger head.
Well, what do you think? Should I include this in my routine?
May as well. It wouldn't be hard to think to make your routine in yours.
Don't be like that, Pete. Can't you give him a bit of encouragement?
He doesn't need any encouragement from me. But it could be okay if he works on it and makes it funny for him. You'd better ask Kelly if she approves of being your subject matter.
Hadn't thought of that. Maybe I better give up on that one then. And that's the end. All right, so think about the conversation. What's the relationship like between John, Peter, and Maria? Is it Maria or Mary?
Maria.
Maria. Like, comment on what you think the relationship between them is like. Does anyone have an idea? What's the relationship like? Anna?
They seem like close friends.
Yeah, what gives you that idea?
It was mostly Peter, who was joking around.
Okay.
John, and like making comments that, you know, if you weren't friends, would probably be offensive. But
Okay, great. So let's have a look at some of those lines from Peter that we could identify. Our resident comedian, yeah? Okay.
It's kind of like a joke.
Yeah, so how could we analyse that? Our resident comedian.
I guess the resident, I don't know what another point is, I kind of use it like the beginning.
Okay. What is that? Yeah?
Resident usually like means like the person who thinks there's something, like if you say our resident mathematician usually means someone who thinks that the rest is
All right. So how could we, could you say it's ironic or sarcastic? Yeah? Great. What is this our business? It's the first person, plural, starts with P, pronoun. Okay. So the joking comments, such as referring to John as our resident comedian, using the first person plural pronoun our to claim ownership. And what part of speech is resident? Our resident comedian. Yep. And the ironic adjective resident to jokingly insult, okay, in the way that is typical amongst close friends. Okay. Is John offended?
not really.
No, and you can see by his joke that the mutual joking that it doesn't cause offence, but actually is a part of their banter. Okay. So it appears to be a typical feature of their friendly banter. Okay. Are you following along? Okay. All right. Anything else that you notice about their relationships? Thinking about, okay, so we've got Paul who's, Peter, sorry, I keep saying Paul, it's just a P. Peter, who is like the joker, who jokingly insults, but not necessarily with the purpose of to actually increase social distance, but still like to establish friendship, okay? What about Maria?
It's kind of like the reaffirming one.
Yeah. So Maria, if we look at her lines, that's so sweet. Perhaps you could give him some lessons. So there's laughter, how romantic. So Maria is affirming. Okay. So sweet. Emphasised. So we'd analyse the prosodic features. If we have a look at her speech, hers, we've got the crescendo. Whoa, sorry. So lengthened and stressed, yeah. And so what's Maria's function, or what is she trying to do? She is, yep, showing support. Okay. How does she feel about the story? Yeah, so she's showing support. She is having joyful or excited responses. Happy responses. Well, any other features that we can look at and analyse here? What about these ones? Barbie is? Yep, from? So Australian slang. What about wedgie? You know what wedgie is, right? Anyone that's gone to high school or primary school in Australia can't help it. Like when stuff gets stuck up your crack, it's a wedgie. I have no idea. It's because it's wedged, right? It's a wedgie. Both, what parts of speech are they? So both nouns. Okay, examples of Australian slang. What do they contribute to? Informal register. Yeah. The casual, unscripted. Oh, is it unscripted? What do you think? He's practicing a comedy routine.
I think this one is unscripted.
Oh, it's interesting. Unscripted or partially scripted.
I guess he knows what he's saying, but then not like full-on speech.
Yeah, and what is comedy routines meant to feel like? They're meant to, even though they're scripted, they're meant to be delivered like they are unscripted. So whether it's scripted or not, the idea of it appearing spontaneous. Yep, Vibhav?
But this is like a conversation about this.
Yeah, so, and this is a good thing because, good thing you look at this because a heap of people wrote this, their sample, wrote their exam response, and they actually said this was a comedy performance. And if you did that, you would have missed some really important parts. So here it is trying out a new routine. So he's practicing. Oh. And the interruptions wouldn't occur you would think, the heckling and the interruptions wouldn't occur. And here he says, what does it say? Would you like to hear what happened? I'm thinking of working it into my routine. So he's actually like kind of saying to them, I'm going to work this into my routine. Can I practice on you? Almost. Okay? Oh yeah, here's another one. You're such a wuss. Okay? Example of what? Okay. So wuss, would you see that in a formal essay? No. So we've got, what part of speech is it? You're a wuss. Informal, the noun wuss. Okay, informal speech. But what else? What is Peter doing here? Is it more of that same? The joking, yep, Vibhav?
It's like a slang.
Yep, so it's slang, definitely. But we've got the function of joking and also insulting, but in a friendly way. So it's that banter, isn't it? The friendly banter. You're such a wuss, scared of a dog. Have you seen their dog? It's the size of a Great Dane and not particularly friendly. What about this?
Did you just say it's elision?
Pardon?
Did you just say it's elision? Like properly with the elision?
Well, remember that elision is, you're right, it is elision. Elision's about sound, not letters. So what is it actually? So I think that's the original. Okay, so shortening, or yeah, elision, we could say it's elision of this bit. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I saw another a phonetics down here that I thought was interesting. What about this one? Okay. So we have assimilation and vowel reduction. We have vowel reduction in the schwa sound there, in ya, and d is the voicing through assimilation. Okay. Okay. All right, let's think about what is the semantic field? Yeah, so this one's an interesting one. Remember that the semantic field, you're going to look for words from that field, nouns, verbs, etc., from that field that will support the domain. So what is he actually telling the story about? Because he's not talking about romantic relationships, proposing, engagement. Okay, so that if you have the semantic field of any of those, okay, so, and like the ring and the getting down on one knee and all of those things. So the semantic field. Yeah, there can often be more than one. Yeah. Yeah, and as long as you had the evidence to support it, I think you're okay. But pretty consistently, the answers tended to be marriage, engagement, proposal, and that's for the majority of the anecdote. Okay, the beginning and the end might have been a little bit about the comedy routine, but the bulk of the conversation was about the anecdote about proposing. Okay, so any of those would work. Okay, let's think about social purpose. Okay, take a look at the social purposes, or have a think. Yeah, do you have one, Krish?
Supporting group membership.
Yep. So, what is the membership?
I guess friends.
Yep. Oh. This is when you think that you're actually projecting 4061. It's actually 308, but okay. Okay. Supporting in-group membership, yep. And we could talk about building rapport. Anybody?
That's the one I always go to.
Yeah, but it doesn't always do that. But this, for friendship, any conversation within friends, is if it's supportive and even the joking bits of it, we have that idea of, so I think you could say either one of those, supporting in-group membership of their friendship group and building rapport. Rapport just means connection or relationship, okay? Any questions? Okay, the function. What is the function, do you think? Yeah. To practice a comedy sketch, tell a humorous story. It's like that's, can you see the difference between the social purpose and then the function? To tell a humorous anecdote and entertain friends. Okay, practice a comedy sketch. Okay. And so, tomorrow, does anyone want this now or do you want to get it tomorrow? So I've actually got the sample answer that goes with that. So I'll just give it to you, you can bring it tomorrow.
No.
And then, I can keep it if you like.
Yes.
Do you all want me to keep it? It's on OneNote. You can have a look if you want. I'll just bring it. I'll bring it back tomorrow. Okay, so what you're going to do lots and lots of practices is noticing the things there that you can incorporate into analysis. Okay? Think about the features of a typical comedy routine, how we could comment on those. Good. Okay, all right, makes sense. Excellent. Okay. Good luck, everybody that is doing the English Stack after school.
What?